Aside from having enough to drink or water crops, just 10% reduction in Colorado River water could result in more than 1.5 million jobs being lost. And according to a recent report from Arizona State University, if the river runs dry, so will nearly 2/3 of the economy in western states dependent on the Colorado River. Here with a look at the financial impact is my guest, Ann Tart, with Protect the Flows, a coalition of businesses that depend on the Colorado River. And Ann, remind us again, what is the drought doing to the Colorado River right now?
Well, it's making things pretty challenging in the river. We've seen reservoir levels in the river basin at historic lows, meaning if it gets much lower, for example, the Hoover Dam won't be able to generate power from Lake Mead. The U.S. Bureau of Reclamation says that the river already, demand for the river's water already exceeds supply, so that's a pretty serious challenge. And climate models say if it's going to get hotter and drier in the region and as population grows, we could really see a lack of river water to supply us with our needs.
Sure, there's this side of we may not be getting as much rainfall or snowfall and the water actually diminishing, but there's also the population growth, even if it stays the same.
That's right.
There's several scenarios in this report, starting with a 10% reduction of water flow at the Colorado River and moving upwards. Where and how would you say, let's say, the 20% drop in water, how would that impact our economy here?
With a 20% drop in river levels, we would see about 3.2 million jobs being lost through the river basin, and about $290 billion worth of economic value at stake in that scenario.
Now, when you're talking about these scenarios, is it, I mean, it's not just agriculture. There's not that, when you're talking about these job losses, how is that linked?
That's right. The report really underscores that the river supports sectors, very diverse sectors. So everything from manufacturing to retail to science and technology companies would be impacted by this.
How likely do you think is the scenario of a 10 to 20% water drop in the river, and how long could that take?
Well, the report doesn't really go there, but I will say that there are other documents and studies that estimate that anywhere from a 10 to 15 to 20% drop is possible, definitely by the end of this century.
So it's a viable option. Give us some examples of how you mentioned some of these other jobs, maybe healthcare or real estate or things that are linked to this. How are they? Manufacturing, perhaps?
Well, companies use water for so many different things you wouldn't think about. I mean, everything from cleaning to cooling their plants or facilities to irrigating their landscapes. So it can really impact every single sector. And then there's kind of ripple effects. If agriculture suffers, for example, a loss because of lack of water, then other companies that provide services and products to agricultural sector,
like tractor builders, or pesticides. Okay,
exactly,
I see.
Would be affected.
Of the 7 states that depend on the Colorado River, the ASU report finds that California gets the biggest benefit at about $657 billion a year.
Right.
So that also puts us at a big risk. What are businesses doing to respond to that threat?
That's a great question. We're seeing a lot of businesses in this region, right here in San Diego County, respond very proactively. Life Technologies, a biotech company in Carlsbad, has reduced their water use by 50% over the last 5 years. Other companies, Hunter Industries manufactures irrigation supplies in San Marcos, also doing a lot to reduce their water use.
Yeah, what are they doing?
For example, in Hunter's case, they replaced some of the turf along their campus with drought-tolerant native habitation, and it's, I think, saving them, I think they said 1.4 million gallons of water a year. So there's things like that they can do. I'm working also with some breweries in the region that are looking at their cleaning and cooling processes and figuring out ways to reuse and recycle water for cleaning purposes. So there's a lot of things that companies can do to just get more efficient and stop being as wasteful.
Do you see this report as a warning, as a planning document? How do you read it?
I see it as a little bit of both. I think that's a great question. Definitely it heightens our awareness in terms of, wow, this is really a significant resource, but also helps us to think about how do we need to become more efficient and what can we do to reuse, recycle water to mitigate against the risk of this.
All right, Ann Tart, thanks so much for the update.
Thanks so much, Peggy.